Assalamu alaikum. Let us quickly do a recap of lesson Lithosphere 2, Exogenetic Forces, that is internal process in the earth. First chapter was weathering. Weathering means breakdown of rocks. Breakdown of rocks due to the constant freezing and thawing without changing their composition comes under physical. Chemical weathering, where there is a change in their composition because of disintegration and decomposition of rocks through the process of mixing carbon dioxide or oxygen or water with the minerals present in the rocks. Third type of weathering, biological. It happens due to human activities such as mining or construction, animals like rabbit that burrows the land, and the plants that expands the rocks for the growth of roots. Next chapter was gradation, that is the process of leveling of land. Last week we have seen the three agents, right? River, glacier and sea waves. And today we will be seeing about the groundwater and wind.
Groundwater. Groundwater is the water held under the ground due to seepage. The rainwater that seeps through the ground passes through various layers of rocks and cracks in the rocks. On reaching impermeable rocks, the water gets stored there. Groundwater performs a number of functions. Groundwater allows the erosion of soluble minerals in the rocks as they get dissolved in water and move along with it. The minerals from the rocks are transported from one place to another by groundwater. The dissolved minerals precipitate and get deposited when the soluble minerals are supplied beyond saturation level or when the amount of groundwater reduces due to evaporation. The work of groundwater is dominant in regions where the rocks contain a large amount of soluble minerals. For example, typical karst landforms are seen in regions having a large amount of limestone in the groundwater. The erosion, transportation and deposition of groundwater gives rise to various landforms such as sinkholes, caves, stalactites and stalagmites. Let's look at each of these landforms in detail. In limestone regions, the surface water penetrates through the cracks and joints in the rocks. Some amount of limestone gets dissolved in this water, leading to the formation of holes on the surface. Over the years, these holes grow in size to form sinkholes. Caves are naturally formed underground cavities. They are formed over the years when the water flowing through the sinkholes strikes a compact or an impermeable rock layer and flows parallel to the ground slope. Minerals like calcium carbonate present in the rocks get dissolved in the groundwater, and a cave is formed. Meghalaya, Andhra Pradesh and Kanhur Plateau in Maharashtra are some places where such caves are found. The water containing salts flows through the limestone regions and trickles through the caves. Some of the trickling water gets evaporated and the salts get accumulated along the ceiling and on the floor of the caves. Owing to this continuous process, the accumulations along the ceiling and the floor gives rise to columns. The columns accumulating from the ceiling downwards are called stalactites, and the columns accumulating upwards from the floor are called stalagmites. Such forms can be seen at Bora Caves in Andhra Pradesh and at Kanhur near Parner in Ahmednagar.
Wind erosion and landforms of desert areas. The desert, an area in which the annual rainfall is not sufficient to maintain a continuous cover of vegetation, wind has an opportunity to play a major part in the creation of desert landforms. Since there is lack of rainfall, little erosion by the action of water, wind plays a key role in the creation of the desert. Why? Few plants to anchor the debris and little vegetation to restrict air movements equals winds of the desert are able to whip up rock fragments and carry them formation of distinct landforms. Deserts and wind action. Strong winds carry light surface materials are carried by suspension. Movement of sand in the desert is largely by saltation. Particles roll and bounce along the ground. Moving sand can have an abrasive power on existing landforms. Strongest close to the ground and create features called toadstools. Mushroom-shaped rocks.
A yardang is a streamlined protuberance carved from bedrock or any consolidated or semi-consolidated material by the dual action of wind abrasion by dust and sand, and deflation, which is the removal of loose material by wind turbulence.
Sand dunes are an effective windbreak. Mounds of loose sand, piled up by wind movements. Dune formation. Winds carry sand over the desert landscape. Deposits of sand collect on some obstruction. Over time a sand dune will take shape. Long, gentle slope on windward side and steep slope on leeward side slip face. Dune migration. Wind carries sand over the windward side by saltation, and the individual grains of sand accumulate on the slip face, causing the dunes to move. Dune migration. Barkans, crescent-shaped, forms over small boulder. Horns point downwind. Sand blows up the windward slope and slides down the slip face. Found in rockier environments with much less vegetation. Transverse dunes, abundant sand needed. Continuous sand ridge forms at right angles to wind. When there is enough sand, bark and sand dunes join together to form long ridges of sand. Parabolic, crescent-shaped, horns point upwind. Vegetation anchors the horns. Found close to beaches, anchored by vegetation, most common type. Strong winds. Longitudinal dunes. Found in deserts where only a thin layer of sand is present. Winds blow continuously in one direction. Long and straight parallel to the wind. Largest type of dune, parallel to the primary wind direction. Require strong winds in order to create such straight lines.
Here, your chapter got ended. I hope you people are clear with the term weathering and gradation and its types. Now, get started for your assignments. And in the next class, prepare well for your quiz. The whole lesson. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair.